You're listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. This is the podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs who understand that exponential business growth isn't achieved through traditional business tactics alone, but through personal development, the ultimate leverage point to scale businesses beyond conventional limits. Hosted by Erica Ferenzi, featuring lessons from the Practical, Profitable Mindset program, created by RJon Robins, Alejandra Leibovich, Erica, and Oscar Ferenzi. And here's your host, Erica Ferenzi.
What if I told you that the gap between where you are now and where you want to be isn't about learning more, but about being more? In this episode, we will talk about 3 ways to create exponential growth: the doing gap, survival versus profit, and the real work with sales. So number 1, the doing gap. Think about it. You already know enough. The results you want are not about learning more, but about doing the part of getting things done. When is that you actually stop learning and start doing? Because knowing the information is not nearly as practical as taking the actions to achieve your goals. You do not need to know everything to make something work. It has to be balanced and holistic. We will get you on the bike, not by talking about how to ride the bike, but by actually riding the bike. Our aim is to get you riding the bike right away. Number 2, survival versus profit. Here is something that most entrepreneurs don't realize. Survival is how most people live, but profit is a step above survival. It is about stepping away from the crowd and actually thriving, not just surviving. And here's what we have seen time and time again. Successful entrepreneurs break through financial barriers, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, $10,000, $20,000, $100 million by small margins. Margins they might have ignored earlier in the year if they would allow their excuses to prevail. And they miss their goals by that margin because they avoided one difficult conversation with a client, and they fall short because they didn't give feedback to an underperforming employee. Now 3, the real work. Sales is not something that you do to people, but is something you do for people. Unfortunately, way too many business owners avoid authentic conversations because they're afraid to upset the person in front of them. In other words, they just want to be liked. They choose politeness over truth, and politeness prevents clients from making better decisions and keeps you from hitting your financial goals. The same goes for your team. When you avoid giving direct feedback because you do not want to be uncomfortable, everyone loses. The employee can't improve. Your business will suffer. Your customers will receive subpar service, which means that your bottom line is going to suffer too. Our episode features lessons from 8-figure serial entrepreneur RJon Robins. He is a co-founder of How to Manage Enterprises, one of the largest companies for managing small law firms in the country. We will listen to him as he kicks off PPM, the Practical, Profitable Mindset program. And now, let's join RJon Robins as he teaches the lesson. And you get ready for exponential growth.
So welcome everyone, January 1st, and the excuses have already started. Leading up to the end of every year, I begin getting inundated with emails and texts and people posting all of their success from the previous year, and everyone's celebrating the effects, which is wonderful and it's great and it's gratifying and it's fun and it's exciting and all that good stuff. But, the effect that we're all going to be celebrating 12 months from now is caused by the actions we take every single day of the year. I was joking with one of our members and we were talking about the following should be on the epitaph of every successful entrepreneur. I had a great life, but I know it could have been better. I know I accepted someone's lame excuses along the way. And, every year we get people who've broke the 7-figure barrier for the first time in their business. They've broken the $2 million barrier, the $5 million barrier, the $10 million barrier, even the $500,000 barrier. Whatever that financial set point is, we've got people breaking it every year. And it's never like they break it by a lot. They always break it by relatively little. And, not that money is the only thing that we measure, certainly not even the most important thing that we measure, but it certainly does tend to impact all the things that we claim are really more important and most important in our lives. And so we do measure it. Whenever people break the 7-figure barrier for the first time, it's almost always by a relatively small amount, which such amount they would have ignored or taken for granted back in January if someone asked them to let them slide. They've got a client who they really could have had a more honest, authentic, generous, caring, considerate, thoughtful, real, truthful conversation. Because sales, remember, is something we do for people, not to people. But instead, they want to be polite, they want to be nice, they want to get along, they don't want to have tension, they want the prospective client to like them. And so they don't go there. They don't have the conversation that they need to have to help the client make a rational, better decision for the rest of the client's life. And consequently, the client's life doesn't get better. And then we get to the end of the year and they're upset because they missed their financial goal by just $5,000. My firm, my business, we grossed $995,000. And if I had just had a real conversation with that client back in January, I'd be celebrating instead of complaining that I missed it by such a small amount. They've got an employee who doesn't do the job that the employee needs to do the way the employee needs to do the job, which ultimately is bad for the employee and, of course, bad for the business and bad for the clients and bad for the owners of the business too. But instead of telling the employee the truth about their performance and giving the employee direct feedback so the employee can improve their performance and be successful, they don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to be an asshole. They don't want to have any tension. And they make an impractical decision, which ultimately ends up being unprofitable too, not only for the business, but for themselves and for the customers and for the employee also, who, absent proper feedback from their employer or the owner of the company, their performance never improves and they can never grow. I want you to be thinking very intentionally and very deliberately and very ruthlessly about why you are doing this. Why are you here? Why did you make this commitment? Number two, what has to be true at the end of this year in order for you to be celebrating what a great experience this was, celebrating what a terrific return on investment you've achieved, and really feeling good about yourself and really feeling a sense of pride that you made an investment for yourself for a whole year? What has to be true in order for you to be celebrating at the end of this year? Number three, how will you know the truth about this experience? You don't need the reason to build a wildly successful business that serves you financially and personally and professionally. The practical approach is to just find a reason. The thing is that the reason that is good enough today doesn't have to be the reason that's good enough tomorrow. You will outgrow your reasons. Unfortunately, too many would-be successful entrepreneurs, they believe in this fairy tale that they're fed about finding the reason. And since there really isn't, for most people, the all caps, bold, italics reason, get out of your own way and take the action you know you need to take to build a successful business, they just stay stuck, constantly searching for the reason, searching for the reason, searching for the reason. Oh, I can't get started because I haven't found the reason. You know what? Let's just find a reason to take a step today. And tomorrow, we'll find another reason to take another step. And step by step by step, new reason by new reason by new reason, that's how multi-million-dollar businesses built in the real world. Anyway, that's the topic we'll be talking about later. And the point of this whole thing is this isn't therapy. Instead, it's designed to be a systematic dismantling and inventorying of how you think about a wide range of areas of your life, mostly as they affect your business or career. We'll get into some personal stuff, but this is mostly about your business or your career. But we're not going to be dismantling your belief system just for the sake of taking it apart. This isn't just like an exercise in dismantling your belief system just because we can. And we're not going to be telling you how you should put it back together. Instead, we're going to guide you through the process of dismantling your belief system and the rules that you currently live your life by for the deliberate and intentional purpose of giving you the opportunity to take inventory of which parts you want to keep when you put it all back together and which parts maybe you will decide for yourself that you want to leave out because they're not serving you anymore. And maybe they used to serve you, and we can be grateful that you had them when you needed those beliefs and those coping mechanisms. It was like that tricycle or the bicycle you had with training wheels when you were a kid. You know, probably have some fond memories of that thing. And without that tricycle, you wouldn't have learned how to operate the pedals. And without the training wheels, you wouldn't have developed the basics of how to balance a bicycle and how to ride a bicycle. But you don't need that anymore. Just imagine an adult riding around on a bicycle with training wheels. Well, some of those rules and those stories and those beliefs that you're currently using to make some pretty important decisions in your life, they're a lot like those training wheels. And it may be time that you left them behind. A few of them, Erica and I suspect you are going to decide you never really did need them at all. And they're certainly not doing you any good today. And you will be relieved when you finally decide to leave them behind. This program is not about us teaching you or you learning a new skill set. You probably have read plenty of self-help books and gone to lots of self-help seminars, and you probably listened to more than a few self-help audio programs and podcasts, which are all good. I'm not knocking that. But that's not what this program is all about. Plus, you've probably solved a lot of problems in your life by learning and even mastering new professional skills. Because you're a educated, learned person. You read books, you take courses, you take seminars, you educate yourself. And if you need to learn a new skill, then you got to learn a new skill. And that's how you're successful in a lot of areas of life. But that's not necessarily how you're successful being an entrepreneur. Learning a skill is an intellectual exercise. And it's a necessary and worthwhile exercise and thing to do. But learning has its limits. And approaching certain topics as if they were something to learn, paradoxically, causes certain limits to come into being. This is because learning is about understanding on an intellectual level. What we are seeking to do this year is to help you transform your whole way of being. And in a relatively short period of time, too, because 1 year out of your life, it goes by in a blink of an eye. So just imagine the difference between when you learned to ride a bicycle versus when you simply became a person who could ride a bike. One is intellectual and the other is experiential. There are probably a lot of people out there who can explain to you in detail the correct way to ride a bicycle and why and how a bicycle works. But they can't necessarily ride a bicycle very well. Some of them can't even ride a bicycle at all. Don't you know, life is full of learned people who can't do what they've learned all about. They can explain it to you chapter and verse, and maybe even make you feel a little insecure about yourself because you don't understand it as well as they do. But they aren't doing it. And they're not getting the results, not because they don't understand it, because they obviously understand it. They're teaching you the technical skills, but they're not doing it. And some of them even go around teaching it to other people, and then they all sit around and wonder why none of them are getting the kind of results that those of us who get and keep our focus on what we are doing, the results that we get. Now, I'm not going to say that you should not waste your time on learning. I am what most people would consider to be a very learned person, and learning is a very important skill set. It helps you shortcut the doing part. And if you take care to learn the right things from the right people, you can certainly save yourself a lot of time and avoid a lot of easily avoidable, what we call rookie mistakes. But ironically, one of the most important things that some of the most learned and least successful people have not learned, or rather, it seems like they've chosen to ignore it, is when to stop learning and start doing. But you see, knowing how to generate profits, knowing these facts, knowing this information, filling your head with all kinds of facts and figures and data and information and instructions and how-to and explanations, it's not nearly as practical as just taking the actions that generate the profits you're after, regardless of whether those are financial or personal or professional profits. You will have become the owner of a multi-million-dollar business that works for you instead of a person who works to make your business work. That is to say, you'll be a person who is applying mindset in practical ways that profit your life, even if you can't necessarily explain why or how it all comes together. It's just going to work for you. Don't force us to explain how. Just play all in. Do the exercises we're going to ask you to do. Just play all in. Give yourself the opportunity to experience these things so that you can have a transformation. So think of it this way. Most of the time, we live in an interior world of dreams and desires and rules and stories that are handed down to us by people we've never even met, and certainly we've never had the opportunity to question or examine why they think what they think, or taught our great-grandparents what they taught our great-grandparents, who taught our grandparents, who taught our parents, who taught us what we now assume to be facts and truth and the way it has to be. We tolerate, we rationalize, and we even defend and even fight to defend these so-called facts and habits and the effect of our belief in those facts and adherence to those habits is that we end up having bad relationships with friends, family, and people who we ought to be doing business with. And we have the luxury of hiding out in this inner world because, let's face it, compared to the vast majority of human history, we don't really have to do very much to survive, do we? And somewhere along the way, surviving became the standard that most people now aspire to. Survival requires practical choices, but not necessarily profitable ones. Recall that profit is the natural byproduct of any exchange whereby a person voluntarily exchanges something they value less in order to gain something they value more. So in the strict sense of the word, survival is, of course, obviously, if you want to get into semantics, survival is obviously more profitable than not even being able to survive. But look, in the modern world we live in, not even being able to survive, it's not even a real concern for most people. And so the choice most of us are faced with really is between merely surviving or actually stepping away from the crowd, doing things that are contrary to conventional wisdom, and actually thriving, because most people don't. They're just surviving. That's sad for them. And it's even more sad for you if you open your eyes to this possibility and then you still decide to join them. This program has been designed to enable you to make smart decisions about actions you will take, actions you will refrain from taking, and how you will conduct yourself in ways that will profit your life. So I started off by talking about becoming very intentional about why you are here. Why are you doing this? Number two, what has to be true at the end of the year in order for you to say, this was a great experience for you? And three, how will you know the truth about the experience? How will you know that what you feel is true? How will you know that what you think is true? Because truth is critical to all practical, profitable endeavors.
You just heard it. Success comes from daily actions. Consistency is the name of the game. Also, avoiding difficult conversations. You need to stop thinking that you're going to do something wrong for people and start understanding that you are taking a stand for people's full potential. As a business owner, as a boss, it is your responsibility. As a leader, it is your responsibility to have the difficult conversations with clients, with employees, because you need to believe in their future, and no one can improve unless they know clearly what is not working and why. And lastly, it is all about overcoming negative and dysfunctional belief systems. Listen, we all have them. It's not only you. We all have those negative belief systems. Why? Because we learned from people, society, families, education, that they did the very best they could, but they were operating with a faulty belief system also. So if you are going to be successful, it is paramount that you change your belief system. And that is why I'm so happy that you're here, because that is exactly what the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast is for. And now it is your turn to take action. Here is to your exponential growth. We will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast. We encourage you to take action on it today. Share what you've learned with another entrepreneur. Sign up for our newsletter to get bonus content you won't get anywhere else at exponentialentrepreneur.com, and subscribe to the Exponential Entrepreneur Podcast to receive the next episode. Until next time, keep breaking through limiting beliefs and growing exponentially.